So this session is about introducing you to a couple of models that can help make sense of this really diverse field of metacognition. Metacognition in its true sense means thinking about thinking, yet we know that that's actually not a broad enough definition, and nor really is meta-learning, although meta-learning is a better definition, learning about learning. And really, the end game for us is to improve learning through the delivery of our teaching, and in fact to have better processes where the acquisition and retention of knowledge by kids and of skills by kids is improved over time. So really, metacognition's a bit of a poor title to this, but it's one of those things that's stuck. So I've got some models here to help you make sense of all of this. So let's look at the first one here. This is, if you like, what I call a value model. What value does knowing about the brain bring to you as a professional and to those that you seek to influence, your students? So at the very bottom here, under the dotted line there, you can see this idea of just neglecting anything about the brain. And that's what we've been doing in education for such a long time. We've been getting on with processes and ways of working that sort of have worked because kids are remembering and learning stuff, but we haven't really paid any attention to the brain. And that's largely because contemporary neuroscience, and specifically neuroscience that impacts on social neuroscience and social and learning neuroscience, haven't really matured until about the 1990s. And we know that education's been here and present in some form for the last 200 years in terms of its institutional delivery of education. So we've been neglecting the brain for quite some time. We can't stand by that excuse of not knowing anymore, because each day there's something new about the field of neuroscience and the brain, the mind, learning, that we acquire and have all of the time. This is happening all of the time. So we cannot be below the line here. So above the line, first of all, is to know more. And as a professional, it should be your job to build your broad understanding of the neurobiology, the functional biology, and even the social biology of how learning happens. Now, it is very complex, and you'll see in the next session I talk about the brain and complexity. And complexity is a model that sort of stems from simple, complicated, complex, and it is massively complex. And so there's a lot to learn and know, but start somewhere and build on this over time. When you have a deeper knowledge, that informs your practice and it forms who you are. So we come to the second layer here of being. So that's really the realm of modelling. And we increase the impact we have by starting to model the things that neuroscience is teaching us. We're modelling things that can help us understand how to address working memory, not giving too much of a complex set of instructions and giving kids time to compile those instructions before giving the next bit of information. That modelling is good practice in terms of applying the knowledge in your teaching delivery and in your learning design. And some of the work that we'll be doing will be in that space. The most impact that I think you can have is to start to share that, and share in two ways. One is to share as a professional with your other colleagues, to become a bit of a metacognition guru or a tragic like I am, and be known for building a practice, your teaching practice, on top of contemporary neuroscience. But we can take that a step further and we can teach kids about this. And when we teach kids about their brain, when we unlock the black box that is their brain for them, then we give them more agency. And we know agency is one of the prime moves for improving learning, and we know that Hattie has explored this both through feedback and his metacognition dimensions, if you like, inside his meta-studies on the things that impact on teaching and learning. So first of all, this model frames how I want you to approach the learning in this, move from knowing stuff to modelling and being. And that being doesn't stop as a teacher, by the way. You can become a better partner, a better parent, a better friend by knowing these things. And then by using that to help others unlock their own brains. So I guess the step from knowing to being is unlocking your own brain, and the be to share is unlocking someone else's brain through this knowledge of metacognition and neuroscience. So this model then seeks to differentiate the areas of content that you might focus your learning, your being and sharing on. Now, the complexity says that you probably in some areas can't really separate it all that well, and you'll see that tension where I've tried to put something into learn state, whereas it sort of properly belongs in brain and mind state, but at least it gives some sense of where we can focus our attention. The model also throws up this interesting idea that between mind state and learn state, we get this idea of mindset, and between brain state and learn state, we get that true sense of metacognition and meta learning. And in the mind state, brain state intersection, we get this sense of, or the area of self-regulation, emotional regulation. And when we join all those together, we get that beautiful nirvana of agency or self-agency. So the sessions are delivered. I've got 3 more sessions after this that I'm going to take you through. And I'm going to pull the eyes out of each of these areas and give you the flagship ideas, if you like, out of each of these 3 domains. I want you to try and connect these back together, and we might try and do that as a final session so we can get that top level learning where we can see how this all comes together. So starting at the know level in terms of learn state, we start with this idea of understanding how learning really happens in the brain. Now, in terms of knowledge, that's probably the premier piece for you to know and understand. If you don't know how learning happens in the brain, then you've got, I think, some problems as a professional. I think that's imperative for people these days to actually understand and know that. Now that will transfer into your design, your learning and teaching design, your pedagogical design, your class structure, the way you present your information, how you structure for differentiation in the classroom, and how you longitudinally, in terms of the time that you spend delivering, how you design that whole piece. You can leverage that a step further again through helping kids understand that learning process so they can unlock their own black box again, and how they can start to understand their own best personal conditions for learning to occur. When we move across to mind state, knowing how the mind state plays in here, we've got a couple of different things playing out here. We've got this idea of Carol Dweck's mind state, and in terms of growth mindset, for instance, and we've got emotional mind states that are in play here. And one of the mechanisms that's going on here is the mindfulness piece. And as we start with the knowing, we move from being more agile to attending more to ourselves when we're modelling, to then sharing with other kids and other people, in fact, and giving them more agency over the way they attend to themselves and how they self-regulate. So again, you can see on the right-hand side, going up, we've got this sense of awareness. The middle one is influence, and the last one is leverage, where we're really starting to impact heavily on the lives of other people. So the invitation here, now that you know these 2 models and how they work together, is to look at this and start to self-assess, where are you in terms of each of these? What do you need to really focus on to go the next step in terms of the 3 different domains of knowledge? And then where are you in terms of your approach to this? Are you below the dotted line? Are you someone who, maybe as a participant of the metacognition learning cohort, you may already have moved up through some of those blue boxes there? So I invite you to start to make some connections with this. What's new for you? What's an extension for you? What's something you didn't know? What's something you need to know more of? And put that in the Jamboard that's underneath here. Start to populate the Jamboard below with where you think you need to go and what your interests are. Now, the reason for you doing that is that gives you the chance then to connect and collaborate with someone else who's in a similar sphere of operation. So you might be someone who's really at the point where you want to share this and you want to share the learn state with your kids. Or you might be at the B state in terms of the mind state and the mindfulness and the self-regulation piece. So reflect on where you are, add your ideas to the Jamboard, use the Connect Extend Challenge protocol again, and we see what we can start to do in terms of grouping people's responses and impacts and needs from this going forward. Look forward to the journey with you, as asynchronous as it might be. Cheers.